Hello everyone, my name is Felix Ayodele Oyeleye, and within the next few couple of minutes, I want to share with you how you can create a professionally looking PowerPoint slide and use that same slides to make presentation an effective presentation. Of course, in our modern world, when ideas are to be shared in a professionally guided fashion or manner, we make use of the PowerPoint application. The PowerPoint application is one of the accessories of the Microsoft Office package that you can always install on your system. So without wasting much time, I'm going to share my slides so that we get right into the business. Okay? Yes. So again, I'm talking about the PowerPoint slide creation skill and effective presentation. The first thing you need to bear in mind when you intend to create your PowerPoint slide is to understand that the PowerPoint slide is meant to carry a summary, a concise summary of your presentation, the concept you intend to share with your audience. Most times you see students copying the entire work and pasting it on the slide. That will actually be wrong. So number one, you must have mastered the concepts. Now, the essence of creating PowerPoint is just to guide you and provide a visual for your audience to actually flow along or follow you as you make the presentation. Okay? So the first aspect we are going to talk about is the common feature you are going to see on the PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint application itself. So here we go. Now, if you look at the screen, you have the Office button, that is number one, and you have the ribbon, the tab number 3, the slide and outline number 4. The first thing to do is to get yourself familiar with these tools that you will be using in creating your slide. Okay? Having summarized your work, you can begin to put them on this slide in form of title, subtitle, and points. Ideally, your points are supposed to be crafted in such a way that at a glance, you can easily discuss the different aspects of that concept itself. When you look at the subtitle or the point, each of the points will open the discussion. While your eyes are on the audience, you can pick that point and discuss them naturally. Sometimes your point can be crafted in form of a phrase, or even a word may be enough to serve as a point. We're going to see more of that. But the most important thing is to understand that it is just points that should be on your slide, not the entire note being copied and pasted on your slide. In that case, that will no longer be PowerPoint presentation, because your audience will find it difficult to flow along with you. Usually, when you use any software or maybe application, you may get stuck at some points. It's not uncommon to get stuck. So that is where the F1 button is. You may want to consult the F1 button for clarity on how to use certain functions or buttons in the application. Again, it is important I emphasize on the fact that presentation is an art. that you must learn to master and you must enjoy in carrying out. If you don't enjoy presenting, you are likely going to be swept off your feet, maybe due to apprehension or tension. So many things may work against you as a student if you don't see the entire exercise as something pleasurable, something that should flow naturally out of you. If I have had an experience and I feel the experience will benefit others, I will definitely be eager to share that experience. I want you to begin to see presentation from that perspective, that you have an idea you want to share with the audience. Forget about the technicalities. Forget about the makeup of the audience. Maybe they are made up of professor or what have you. You are the experts. You went to the field, you did the research, and you came up with findings. None of the audience probably followed you to the field. So you have some level of understanding higher than your audience, probably, that you want to share with them. So when you enjoy making presentation, it makes the whole work of presentation a very interesting one. Now, a good presenter never makes mistakes. What does that mean? Again, I told you, you are the one that went to the field and you did the work. So whatever you said, except if it is completely out of place, you are most likely going to be right because you saw it. Your conclusion may be wrong, which is not impossible, but as a presenter, you have the first-hand understanding because you did the work. So that is why I put it this way, that a good presenter never makes mistakes. Again, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That is according to Albert Hastings. You must be able to explain it in a practical sense. So it cannot be overemphasized that before you go about presenting any concept, you must have mastered that concept. You must have developed skill with which you can present that concept in a layman, maybe to a layman, in a very simple term, in such a way that your audience can actually flow with you. Again, giving a presentation is talking to the audience and not reading to the audience. Many a times students make these mistakes. They make this mistake of reading out what they have on the slide. Of course, the common thing is that you are going to lose some very intelligent member of the audience because ordinarily they know how to read. The alternative would have been for you to give them the slide for them to go and read at all. So ideally, you are supposed to talk to the audience. You don't back the audience. You face the audience, you pick the point from the slide, and you discuss the point. You explain the point. You elaborate on the point. So please always avoid the temptation of reading your slide whenever you are doing a presentation. Again, your listener will also judge you and your months and year of work within 30 minutes or less. That is why you must do your homework very well. You must have prepared very well. You must have studied. You must have mastered the entire concept. Anything you are not sure of, don't say it because that may throw you off balance. Now, let's begin to look at certain practical way through which we can manage some challenges when we make public presentation. We have signs of nervousness that is very common sometimes. Maybe you are tense. You see, a lot may speak for your level of preparation for the work. If you are well prepared for that presentation, you have most likely overcome some of these stage fright signs more than 50%. But an ill-prepared presenter will always be under serious, enormous pressure. So the signs of nervousness is there. It's important you be yourself, be natural. Try to practice over and over again, maybe at your convenience, maybe even you can gather some friends and make presentation to them. It's part of perfecting your skill in effective presentation. Limit your worry, put things aside, put other matters aside. That is the work for that hour, and face it head on. Get basic information that will guide you in making effective presentation. Practice with the allocated time. If you are to be given 10 minutes, okay, make sure you practice with 8 minutes. If you are to be given 20 minutes, make sure you practice with 15 minutes. Learn to practice. Never allow the time you are presenting to the audience, the first time you are making a presentation on that concept. Present to your family member, present to friends, let them critique what you have presented. You know, by you presenting to them, presenting to friends and maybe colleagues, it also helps you to master the concept you intend to share with people. And it will also help you to manage possible fright that is very common with public speaking. Now, it's important you are early enough. Relaxation and visual techniques is very important. Now, the body language, your voice must be audible. You must be a master and on the stage there. When you make that presentation, it doesn't really matter if you have the overall knowledge of the concept. People are going to judge you by the level of your confidence and how much grasp you have about the subject matter. And not just that alone, your communication skill is also very, very important. If you are going to speak English, make sure you have mastered your tenses so that will not be a kind of noise even to the audience. Your comportment is also very important. In some very technical presentation, very official or academic presentation, your comportment will also be used to assess you. So you must take care of all that. Now let's look at the basic structure that a presentation may take. Maybe take, for instance, you have to make a final presentation of a research work. Usually you're supposed to have your title slide, supposed to have the impact at opening. Now let me talk about the impact at opening. Many a times, people may not really have enough time to wait and listen to all your presentation from the beginning to the end. But when you create an impact at the beginning, maybe you intend to talk about the impact of Newcastle disease. You work on Newcastle disease. There is a particular coinage, there's a particular statement you may craft at the beginning. We usually refer to it as icebreaker. Excuse me. We usually refer to it as icebreaker. When you put that slide on after your title slide, you make certain assertion, of course, which will be referenced. It will get your audience awake to listen to whatsoever you have in mind to share with them. So you don't begin from the down the hill approach. You begin from up the hill approach. You throw in a very impactful statement that will get the audience yearning even for more. Then you can begin to have your introduction. You can talk about the materials and the method you use in the research, and then you discuss the result and some other things, your findings of that particular work. Then you can have the conclusion, the recommendation, and the acknowledgement. Very, very important. Now, let's now begin to look at some of the technicality in our slide creation. Number one, paginate your slide. After you have done your slide creation, it is important you paginate the slide. Pagination is very important so that your audience can actually reference a particular slide. Maybe at the end of your presentation, you want to ask question, they can easily reference a particular slide by quoting the page. And again, it's important that you leave adequate margin for the slide. I'm going to show you more of that as we continue. Adequate margin, very important. You check the text and the images, they must be visible. You must avoid too many slides. Sometimes you have some people, they want to make, some students, they want to make presentation, and they're having something like 40 slides, 45 slides. Meanwhile, they are aware of the fact that they don't have more than 10 minutes to make such presentation. That could be destabilizing. Have a moderate number of slides. At any point in time, if somebody wants to ask a question that is outside what you have presented, the person can always, you can always make reference to that without such information even being on your slide. So the essence of the PowerPoint slide itself is to have a summary of the entire presentation. Now you use figure or charts or few words. You use large fonts, at least let's have 24 points for your fonts. Your words, that is the lettering, should be visible to the audience. You need to picture the distance of the audience to the screen, and then you decide how your lettering should look like, the font. I would recommend 24 points. Of course, 20 may be okay, 22 may be okay, depending on what you are trying to draft out. Now you can as well use bold and underline button, or you even put specific color, like you see the red line, the word red written in red and green written in green. That is just to highlight that point. But please don't forget that we must avoid the use of certain color when you create your PowerPoint slide. Avoid color red, more important, because some people find it difficult to see color from a distance. So make use of colors that are eye friendly, okay? And do not stand in the front of the screen. You use a pointer. In fact, ideally, you should get a pointer when you want to present. It will be wrong for you to be stretching your fingers. You can use an on-screen pointer, just like the one I'm about to activate now. You can see you have the laser pointer here. With this, if you are very close to your laptop, you can use it to guide yourself in the presentation. So you don't use your finger or your hand, you use a pointer. Now, do not also crowd the slides or cluster the slide. Too much information on the slide make everything clumsy. Avoid too many graphics. Pictures are very good. It is important you garnish your presentation with graphics and pictures. Let people be able to connect with what you are presenting using pictures. But please avoid too many graphics and pictures. More importantly, there are pictures that you took, maybe in the course of the work. You took slides, maybe you took picture of some slide and all that. It's important you showcase those information. You see, it further validates your presentation when you have pictures, images that you got in the course of that presentation. Okay, again, you use bullet points and you space them out evenly. Okay, and you use custom animation to animate your slides, but you must avoid overdoing animation. Visual emphasis of points is important. Compare images of similar magnification. I'm still going to give you a graphical picture of all these points I'm outlining. Check your equipment, keep your eye contact on the audience. There are people that sometimes you see students, they look away from the audience. Sometimes they are looking up, they are looking at the board. No, you must maintain eye contact with the audience when you do professional presentation. You talk to audience and not to your screen. You take notes. You know, there are times, of course, After you are done presenting, the next thing will be that there will be a feedback. The audience may want to respond to what you have presented. It's important you have a small note beside you, depending on the kind of presentation. And of course, whatever manner of presentation, you can as well jot down the concern, maybe the comment of people or what you have presented. So you should have a note beside you where you are going to take comment and observation. Very, very important. Now let's have an example of some of what I've actually listed out. Now, this is a picture of your title slides. You have a study on the operation of Nigeria Animal Quarantine Service and its applications on animal disease prevention and control in Southwest Nigeria. Now, usually you're supposed to have your name there. You have your registration number or matriculation number, as the case may be. Your department should be clearly stated. And of course, the name of your supervisor, Professor ABC, Dr. XYZ, and the dates that the research was conducted should be stated on your slide. Now, you can appreciate the fact that for the title, the main title of the work, it is written in a very bold, in a very large font. So it is important you highlight the topic that way, while other information can actually follow. Now, this is the concept of the icebreaker I was saying at the beginning, the impact at opening. After your title slide, you should have the impact at opening, the icebreakers slide. The Newcastle disease is estimated to cause significant economic losses amounting to 700 million naira yearly in poultry farms in Nigeria. That is an icebreaker, something that can get the audience attentive. Maybe in journalism, they call it sensational statements, sensationalism, something very, very triggering, something that will capture the attention of the audience right from the beginning of your presentation. And then you have the points. I told you this is PowerPoint presentation. So your point should be marshaled in form of points. Okay? And these are points that are that should be very, very short. And I say ideally, you shouldn't have more than five points on a slide at a time. Ideally, it should be 4, but not more than 5. Now you can appreciate this. You see, if you look at this particular slide, the wordings are covering everywhere. And what is the problem with this slide is that margin is not left, and you can see the bullet even touching even the line. So this is actually wrong. You can see the mark there. This is actually a wrong way to create your slide. Now look at this. This is a very good one. You can see enough margin to the left, enough margin to the right. And you can see the PowerPoint, the points clearly outlined. You can pick on phagocytosis and begin to discuss. At a glance on your slide, you pick up the next point and you discuss. You don't begin to read. I said this at the beginning that it is wrong to read to your audience during PowerPoint presentation. You can pick up active phase protein and begin to discuss what active phase protein itself is. But this will depend largely on the level of your preparation or your preparedness even for your presentation. Now look at this slide now. You see this talks about the contrast. I told you must avoid certain color. You can see the fourth line on this slide. The contrast is so poor. Putting a light green color on a white background will not be readable. So you can see cancelled out the green. It's also on white background, that is out. While you can have white on a black background, you can have yellow on the black background, and on and on. So color contrast is very, very important. Otherwise, your presentation, at the beginning of your presentation, when your audience realize that they could not even read what you have actually designed or the slide you have created, many are completely tuned off, which is not what you actually desire. So the next is the use of bullet points. Bullet point is very, very important. You can see this is more of a junked up notes being put in form of a point. This kind of slides makes it difficult even for the audience to follow, number one. Number two, it will also force the presenter to be reading from the slide, which is against the norm in PowerPoint presentation. But if you look at the next slide, you can see how the points are being captured. You can see the point being summarized like the other slide I showed you. If I show you the previous slide, you see how clumsy it is. If you see this one, you see how well outlined it is. In fact, the word alone may stand as a point. If you understand what phagocytosis is, you may not necessarily need the statement under that word phagocytosis for you to explain. You understand what it is, you can explain it in a layman term. That is where we started the other time when I told you that if you cannot explain it simply enough, it is well because you don't understand it well enough. So you can see the use of visual and images. Visual and images can also be very, very good for illustration during presentation. And you see the flow, the arrow flow. This is an image of tissue sectioning, and the creator of the slide is actually trying to show us the flow, the process involved, or the procedure involved in your tissue sectioning. Okay, and again you have your charts. The charts were clearly outlined. You don't put too many charts on a slide at the same time. Many a times it makes your work mobbed up. You can have just one chart or one figure on the slide at a time. And then I talked about the font size, which is should be ideally 24. Of course, something like 20 is still manageable, okay? But ideally, if you have 24 points font size, it is perfect. You can even have it as high as 40 to make whatever you are presenting more visible. Now, this is a cumbersome data. You avoid a clumsy data like this. You see, if you look at this slide, this individual intends to talk about the result he obtained over some period of time, maybe weeks, against the group. Now, it's not in every situation whereby, that you have to present all this information. If where you had significant changes or you want the audience to take note of is just in group 1 and group 9, why not remove other groups and just project group 1 and group 9? You can just leave dot in between them to show that there are some other groups, but the result we obtain from them are not very significant. So this is very, very important when you do your slide creation. You don't have to put all the information at the same time on the screen. And it's also important that those changes or those significant differences that you want to point out should be highlighted. It's either you highlight them by putting superscript, or you want to highlight them by even changing the color, so that at a glance your audience can actually can actually pick the differences in what you are presenting. This is the kind of crowded slide, like I earlier told you, which is not correct. Now you can see it's also important to compare images of similar magnification. You see, the magnification of this is the same thing as this, the magnification of this is the same thing as this. You don't compare images of different magnification. That will be wrong in PowerPoint slide creation. See, these are images of different sizes, different magnification, and it is wrong to compare such images. Okay, now the criteria usually for scoring an academic presentation is as shown on the screen. Suitability of your title, suitability of your introduction. How were you able to clearly justify the work? Okay, the objective of the study. Did you use proper design and methodology? Did you use the appropriate statistical analysis? Now, there are some areas of your presentation that you may need to consult the, the relevant experts. You may not necessarily know everything. If you are to present your research work, and there are some areas you need to analyze, you need to seek the help of an expert in telling you the best way to analyze your samples, the clarity of the result, how were you able to present it, and your ability to interpret and discuss the results, okay? And how well were your objectives accomplished? You see, usually when we start a project, we set out to accomplish certain objectives. We have the main objective, we have the specific objective. At the end of the day, your objective must be accomplished. If they are not accomplished, the work is not done. So, again, adequate answer to comments. People are going to ask you comment. The audience will ask questions. Rather, it is important to be able to answer those questions. You are going to be graded based on your ability to answer those questions. Contribution to the existing knowledge, proper use of allotted time, your comportment, your audibility, your appearance. Okay, these are very, very important. The clarity and the good use of your PowerPoint, which is the whole essence of what we are discussing. Your PowerPoint can make a difference between you and another person that probably has some very, very important work. If your PowerPoint is well created, you can score higher points. So that is how we do it. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have gained one or two things from this presentation. If you have any question, you can drop them for me on the comment section. Thanks for listening.